All right. Hello, everyone. We are live, and welcome everyone to our Circus of Lives live stream. On the stage, we have John and Jeebus, and I'm not sure if our previous guest, Brad, is going to show up again. But if he does, I can bring him on. But while we are waiting for him, I thought we would discuss some of the topics that came up in the comments section. So this new guy, I don't know. Do you guys know much about this, Steve?
No, I'm wondering if you might be a sock puppet from somebody else, but I mean, no.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like at least not that I'm familiar with. He doesn't seem familiar to or similar to some of the other shows that are that have been on it. But you know, I may not be as aware of some of the history. Hey, Blarg. Hey, Ook.
Howdy all.
How y'all doing?
Yeah, good.
So we were just talking about this guy. At least to me, seems new. This Steve guy. I don't know if any one of you guys know him or know what alt he might be.
No, not yet. I don't think.
Yeah, just stylistically, he doesn't remind me of anyone.
Who's this? Sorry, I just got my shit together.
The Steve guy, the one with the Trump.
Oh, the Trump with the glowing eyes.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't remind me of anyone. I do have a file started on him, but
I thought he was just he's kind of like my new chew toy. Where it's just like the stuff that he says is like it's so easy to just respond, kind of disprove or respond to, and he keeps on making it, and he doesn't seem to pick up, or he doesn't care about the arguments. He just kind of keeps on going. So he's been amusing me this week, I should say.
What was really fun was, I don't know if you caught this, QC, but earlier today, he was talking about how he loves debating atheists about morality. It's his favorite thing. So my response was, cool, I'll debate you live one-on-one. Come on to QC's channel. Let's discuss this tonight. His immediate response was, that's not really my thing.
I'm going to have to see if I can find where he makes the excuse. It might be here. Okay, so he basically said the reason why he's not doing it. Okay, he doesn't do live streams because he says he has a face for radio and a voice for print, and he can't make us believe God is real, and that's his quote unquote reasoning. So I said, so whether that's his new excuse that he doesn't have that voice. Because according to Christian logic, whoever has the better voice wins debates. Because who cares about the voice? Yeah. And then he responds and says, "Well, I do actually have a smooth and sexy voice, like Barry White." So he completely moves off of that. Yeah, right. He just completely moves off of that excuse.
Yeah. So I think. Go ahead.
I was just going to say he does seem to run the sort of tired old precept that thing that without God existing, then there's nothing that's evil. So do whatever you want. That's stupidity.
Yeah.
Which, just about every amateur apologist tries that shit off. And just
he's definitely a argument.
What I want to know is if there's any version of this conversation that they have with themselves where they hop on to the atheist experience, or maybe they take a look at some of the comment section, and is there a moment in their mind when they think, ha, I'll be the one to win this time? It's like, do they not bother to watch any of the show? Do they not bother to read any of the comments? Do they just come on with no back history at all and just start flinging this stuff around. It's bonkers.
Well, I
Utter
know that
lack.
there are some atheists on other platforms where, they are actively trying to debate with atheists, right? They have their own kind of script, their own thing they've been doing a while. It's just that at least on the Atheist Experience channel, we don't have anyone like that. All we have are people who will run away whenever challenged.
Yeah. Which I really do wonder, like, at that point, what's the point? Why talk all big and bold?
Yeah.
Get called out. Okay, run away. All right, fine, cool. It turns out that you don't have nearly the spine that you thought you did. Everybody's been a coward at something at some point in their life. I'm no exception to that. But then you come back the next day and start all over again. That's the part that makes no sense. Like, DK makes no sense to me because he's clearly just been blown out of the water with his whole, I'm an intellectual BS.
Well, he's an Aussie, so I think you can kind of understand.
Come on now.
What's interesting is he uses the same excuse that Chris Massey uses. Chris Massey uses excuse that he has a voice that he doesn't like, and that's the reason why he won't call the show. So he uses the same excuse.
No, he can't work a phone. Chris can't work a phone.
Yeah.
He called the show once, didn't make it through the call screeners, and he will never call the show again.
That reminds me of Ricky.
Oh.
And he's been MIA for a while. So he must have kind of gone away.
I think what happens with people like Steve is that they live over in their little echo chamber of apologetics, where and if you see any of these apologetics, you always see them beating up on a straw man of an atheist. So they don't understand that we actually have a background in some of this stuff. We've got a heap of experience with it. They don't understand what atheism is. So they come on here, all gung ho, thinking it's super easy to defeat atheists because the stuff that I get told they believe and the stuff that I get told they say is so stupid and so easily defeated that it'll be a walk in the park. And they come on and things don't work out that way. But because of the sort of cognitive dissonance issue, they can't let it go. If they do, then they admit defeat, and then they have to start asking questions about themselves, and we can't have that happening.
So Miranda asks, considering
about ourselves, what are we, atheists?
So Miranda asked, considering some of the callers that do get through, what do you have to say to get blocked by the call screeners? So if you're a theist, you could be pretty much like barely, sensical, and they'll let you on, I think. I think if their topic is kind of not related to that, let's say just completely something wacko, like, I can just imagine, Ricky Sparty coming on and saying something bizarre about water and whatnot. And even that actually would get on, but I think he just wasn't coherent enough that they would let him through.
Maybe if you're just too abusive.
I mean, let's face it, we've all heard biblically, the Australian guy who's biblically, they let him on occasionally. Did anyone watch the one where biblically called into the line and Matt and Forrest were on, and Matt went, okay, he's been banned from the show, but we're allowing him to call in to baptize Forrest.
Yeah.
And the whole
was
thing,
that biblically, or was it the 7 Day guy?
No, that was biblically.
Okay.
And when he said, well, I'm God's perfect spouse bullshit, and I have sex with God. Once Forrest picked himself off his desk laughing, he said, is God a top or a bottom?
It is
I
a good question. I'm
remember
sure a
that.
lot of people would want to know.
It's yeah. But yeah, they banned him again straight after the thing. But Forrest went through a whole, I think spent about half an hour with him. And he lost it as soon as he said, I have a sexual relationship with God.
That's
But
Yeah.
You
Well,
go,
just to go
no,
back to
that's referred to in the literature as whacking off.
yes.
Just because you're imagining a partner,
yeah,
it
right.
doesn't make it sex. It makes it masturbation.
Just because you say "Oh God" before you're done doesn't mean.
Yeah, he's there with a hand around it.
Oh, jeezy, crazy.
But
So
yeah,
you got a
I
lefty or
remember-
a righty?
if you go to the line and just type in biblically, you'll get that mad Australian twit. And I think he's from Melbourne. That's what the accent reminds me a little bit of. Western suburbs, Melbourne.
Oh, I've been meaning to ask you. You mentioned a TV show or a comedy show.
Agro's TV
Yes.
connection. Yes.
Oh my God. I
You
had
watched it.
tears pouring down my face, laughing so hard.
Did you see the one where he asked Anne Marie are you ready for your internal?
I'm sorry, this is just completely off topic. But
where the puppeteer got pulled out from underneath the
oh my God. Anyway, so thank you for that recommendation. It was definitely my happy moment for the day.
Yeah, it's that sort of explains why certain Australians, Australian kids grow up a little bit differently than the rest of the world.
If you're
That was
also
my-
looking
That was my
for a fun little, go on.
I was just saying that was my joke in the comments section. That actually went to the air. What's the difference between a police car and a kidnap? Police car, all the pricks are on the inside. But yeah, I'm glad Agro's cartoon connection.
Oh my God, just what the hell?
And he's just he's rude off the bat.
Do we?
I don't get this the apathetic fish. Sunday Rose mentioned that he just posted a comment about I'm actually this close to killing myself because of Flojo. I mean, I really can't get the sense whether he's actually being serious or not.
So my inclination, my tendency, just because of personal reasons, is I take this sort of thing seriously.
Yeah.
Just assume it's true to start with.
I'd rather assume it's true and be wrong.
Yeah, I think we're all doing that, but I think the question is like, if that is the case, why is he continuing to stay on here? I mean, I think we all should be kind of telling him to get off the comments.
Yeah, just
Well, we have. All of us
and we have.
have said, repeatedly, you really need to at least take a break. Like, absolutely need to take a break from it for a little bit. Get your head together. Get out in the real world. It's if it's harming you this much, this is not a place you should be.
Because he doesn't have to be here,
No.
I mean, I even offered, look, talk to QE, and if you need someone, because I'm up at all different hours because of the pills I take, and if you want to talk, QE will pass on my phone number.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, he hasn't reached out to me. So,
Yeah.
oh, so apathetic fish said he is trying to take a break.
All
So,
right.
Fish, I mean, seriously, if you are kind of feeling that way, I mean, for your own sake, you need to get off.
Yeah. Look, apathetic. Take the time that you need, man. Your mental health is not worth whatever toxicity you're absorbing from some troll online. It's not worth it. I take breaks from this every once in a while because I start, it starts taking me to dark places. So do what you got to do, man. Stay strong, stay true to yourself, reach out for help as necessary. If you want
Yeah,
my
and
email,
Fish, if you want to, like get in contact with any of the guys here who kind of volunteered themselves to talk to
Yeah,
you,
we're
just
all happy.
pop me an email. So you can send it to QC. I can't remember which one I use at mynes.com.
but yeah, I mean,
So
my
I can
email is not going to help you.
I can then pass on your information to them. I'm absolutely not going to expose your or give your information out to anyone else, who you don't give me permission to give to. So, you can kind of be assured that your privacy will be kept very private.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I tried for 4 days to get a reply to Brad about the crimes that would
Oh
get you
yeah.
death or sent to Australia, and I tried everything. It just wouldn't work. I don't know why. I thought maybe the place I copied it from was something wrong with the formatting. So I went into Notepad, pasted it in there, put it in the Word, and then it was crazy. But did you read the one? You could get the death penalty. It was mandatory death penalty or transportation to Australia, which was, you're stuck here for life. Impersonating an Egyptian. I don't know what was happening in England at the time, but why did impersonating an Egyptian get you the gallows or sent
Well,
to Australia?
here's the thing. You know the word gypsy for the Romani people?
Yep.
That is a bastardization of the word Egyptian.
Oh, I didn't know
Because
that.
they impersonated, or they called themselves Egyptians because Egyptians had special permissions and or special rights and privileges that other people didn't have, particularly as people with slightly different skin color. So yes, they called themselves Egyptians or became gypsies in order to avoid the negative situation that they had with their group.
I was saying, that was, thank you. That's an Australian fact that I found was just, it's just insane. But gypsies, I have heard that in when I was doing my medieval thing. Yes, I have. I should have picked it, but yeah, I mean that one of them was stealing roots, leaves, or damaging trees. Where, I don't know. Even burning clothes could get you the gallows and sent to Australia. So, I mean, mandatory sentencing doesn't work. And talking to quite a few mates, say if they brought in the mandatory death penalty here for certain crimes, it'd be, well, I'm going to rob this house. Oh, someone's seen me. Fuck it. Kill them all. it could lead
Yeah,
to
those
a
guys
whole.
aren't those guys aren't committing crimes thinking, hey, we might get caught. All those guys are thinking that they're going to get away.
Yeah, and if you got a mandatory death sentence hanging over something, no, you may as well kill them to save witnesses.
Right. Yeah, it actually drives the wrong behavior.
Yeah. But thanks, Blarg. I hadn't bothered to try and look for that one. But yeah, makes sense.
It's a curiosity.
Yeah. I know.
So I just want to kind of get back to what Blarg was saying about this guys like Steve coming in all kind of confident, because that's exactly how he came in. You know, he came on with this idea that atheism is illogical because he's presupposing God and only God can make morality real. So, you know, he posts this thinking, hey, you know, he's got the atheists, you know, he's got them. And so he starts these threads, and then each time he gets kind of or disputed, you know, he just moves on to something else. But and the other thing is this whole Stalin Hitler thing, which is kind of the usual theist thing. But you know, he
They also
basically
think
doesn't care
that's a
about the
zinger
truth.
too. It's a winner, because they're look what those atheists did. You go, yeah, they grew up right jammed so tight into theology, it's not funny. And well, we all know how much Hitler made use of Christianity. What his actual beliefs were is a little hard to be certain, but he certainly said he believed in God a lot. And Stalin enrolled in a seminary.
Yeah.
So and then I think perhaps maybe he took a path that has happened with for example, Matt Dillahunty and many others. They want to know more, and when they discover more, they realize they've been lied to, and in that case, things went in a very dark direction as a result of the hatred. But also, if you're an authoritarian, then it's all about you.
See, folks like Stalin, folks like Hitler, folks like Mussolini, if you take a look at their history, if you take a look at their personal writings, before they became who they were already who they were. There was already that anger, there was already that resentment, there was already that vicious streak to them. They were always these people, just because of where they were in time and history, and because of certain things tumbling in a particular way, they rose to power. But they were always those kinds of people. They were always going to end up that way, one way or another.
Let me just interrupt. So Fish basically said he will kind of get off, but he'll listen into the live stream. But you know, hopefully he'll kind of wait until he gets a little bit better before coming back into the comments. The other thing I wanted to mention here is there's someone in the comments, Elijah Murray, or that this person is the Elijah Murray of Malachi 4. I think we've seen some comments from them. So they're basically saying that Hitler, basically, you know, Hitler is not a true Christian, right? Because he didn't really.
I'll be right back, guys.
believe
I gotta take care of something.
Yep, no worries. And in the comments from a video I had put up last week, you know, this I was going back.
Oh, was that the Freemason guy or person?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So the discussion was that, you know, he was saying that, okay, Hitler wasn't Catholic because I said in the video that he was a Catholic. He was of course born and baptized as a Catholic. At some point, you know, he moved off of Catholicism, where he basically, you know, didn't want organized religion, right? So it wasn't an issue with the belief in God. It was his issue with organized religion being, you know, someone who was going to compete with him in power, especially the Catholic Church. So even though he used a Catholic Church, he obviously, would have just gotten rid of the Catholic Church once he didn't need it, right? So,
Yeah, exactly what you
and
expect to
because
see from Trump and the
yeah,
evangelicals. Once he no longer needs them, you can guarantee religion does not get to continue in America either in the way they hope.
yeah, I mean, Trump is continuing to kind of pander to the religious because it's his base, right? So
Yeah,
it is
they're the
just
ones who'll hand
pandering.
him the power,
Yeah,
exactly like it was the center Christian party who handed Hitler his power.
yeah, and this
And then,
person was making the same comment about this, no true Scotsman thing, where, he's saying, well, a true Catholic wouldn't be like that. So sorry, I interrupted you, Blarg.
I mean, if you want to
go
see, no, if you want to see a true Catholic, you only have to look at how Belgium treated the Congo.
Oh
For
yeah,
fuck's sake! I mean, the rest
and
of
it's
the whole,
amazing that not that many people know about that, at least in the
yeah.
U.S.
I mean, the whole of Europe turned around and went, okay, right, you're out. They just basically cut Belgium off because of what I want to say Leo.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Leo was doing over there, and he was pariah. Yeah, they blockaded it. They actually, yeah, very interesting. The start and the finish of the Belgians in the Congo. But it was all pretty much all Catholic priests, the nuns. He did send a lot of nuns that were trained in medicine over there, but it basically just it was out and outright slavery. And if you thought the American version of slavery was bad, see what the Belgians were doing. It horrifying.
Yeah, so Miranda looked it up as King Leopold II
Yes, thank you.
during that period. Yeah.
Yeah. The funny thing is, the second Tarzan movie of recent years didn't do a bad job of sort of portraying what they were doing.
Oh,
Apart from being a complete shit show, the rest of it, yeah, they got their history right, sort of. One of those.
well, with
And
Hitler, what he did was, he ultimately set up his own church, and it was a Christian church. It was a Protestant church. I think mostly because Germans at the time were Protestant, predominantly Lutheran, and I, made the point that the Nazis were using Gott mit uns in their as their motto. So very Christian, at least theistic, right?
yes, Gott mit uns, yeah, on belt buckles. And yeah, the quotes about our movement is a Christian movement.
Yeah, they just didn't like the Old Testament, the Jew portion, right? So they wanted to get rid of that.
Yes, it was a good excuse to get rid of them. Go,
Yeah.
oh, well, they were who was responsible for killing Jesus, weren't they? So you haven't been able to trust them for 2,000 years. So
well, I mean,
yeah,
King Henry VIII got rid of banished the Jews out of England, and strangely enough, it was Henry VIII who brought in the rule impersonating an Egyptian, because he kicked all the gypsies out as well. So it was, long, and that was actually before he went full on excommunicated. He just wanted their money, basically. But yeah, Hitler. You only have to read Mein Kampf. The Christian and it's all through that book, you know. It gave him his morals, it gave him his framework to work on, and there's no true Scotsman bullshit that the fierce run out is, yeah, it's so weak.
Yeah.
Well,
you get
Yes,
that.
but they think it's a good excuse, but the reality is that essentially any person can do anything based upon what they want and seek justification from some verse in the Bible. And if you have to, you can go along and say, well, it's a metaphor for what we're doing, and then it becomes literally anything you want to do. And then other people can go along and look at it and say, oh, well, no, that's not a true representation because we believe a different thing. Tell that to the Westboro Baptist Church.
So Elijah Marie is continuing on with this no true Scotsman fallacy, saying Trump supporters are not Christians. They obviously are. You know, they're obviously the Christian nationalists who wants to put a theocracy in the United States through Trump. So if they're not Christians, and you call it whatever else, it doesn't matter. You know, it just from what they are planning on doing is to put in a Christian nationalist regime into the U.S.
Yeah, how more Christian could you be?
Elijah would like to come onto the stream.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with it as long as you keep the more don't hit us too hard with conspiracy theories.
Yeah. So Elijah, I just put in the link to get on, so you can use that to connect in via a browser. But you're obviously not obligated to come on, but we will respond to what you say in the comments. Things like they are fake ministers that worship Satan and lie on purpose. No, they're not.
I'm pretty sure they'll say the same thing about you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and who's correct? Neither. Because as best we can tell, there's no such thing as Satan and no such thing as God. So,
yep. And just going back to the anti-Semitism thing, so Miranda says, it's a weird reason for being anti-Semitic. Jesus had to die for our forgiveness, according to them. So why hate the people you perceive to be responsible for that whole, that Rube Goldberg thing that God's, set up in order to forgive the world's sin. We do have the anti-Semite, that one guy, that humanism is whatever he calls it, repulsive or something.
Yeah.
He's
definitely, that's just APOC.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Although we don't know
exactly
for sure.
The same.
Yeah, it feels the same. The same kind of transphobia and all that stuff that he said.
The wordage, the punctuation, the strange little dots instead of one full stop, he will always put at least 3 when he trails off on a paragraph. Yeah, no, it's the same person. 100.
Yeah, and go ahead.
I can say, in line with what Miranda has said about the weird reason for being anti-Semitic, is I made a comment yesterday, I think, about the actually to Chris Massey about because he was talking about the serpent in the Garden of Eden, and going, oh, is that the serpent that was that was created with legs and put in the garden in full knowledge that they'll then go along and get the people to believe them and do what has to be done, and then gets punished for doing exactly what it does by having its legs removed. And you just go, why? You created it knowing what it's going to do and put it there to do the thing, and then punish it for doing what it needed to do. It's bizarre.
By the way, So Tanya is on, but Tanya, you don't have to turn on your video if you don't want. You can obviously keep it on if you want, but it's up to you. So if you're okay with that, I'll just go ahead and put you on the stage.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. You're on.
All right. Everybody can see me and hear me, right?
Yep.
Sure.
So you're
Okay.
Tanya, but you
Yep.
go by Elijah.
Well,
on the
okay, you have to understand reincarnation of the soul is real. And no matter how many times someone is reincarnated, their gender is always the same regardless of sex characteristics. I did not always know I was Elijah until 2020, September of 2020. So I am
Sorry.
male in gender.
Sorry, Tanya. Whereabouts in the Bible does reincarnation happen? You're a true Christian. That should be a biblical thing.
So you also have to know that they've taken a lot out of the Bible and put a lot in there to try to deceive people on purpose. Now, Jesus said John was Elijah, okay? So we know reincarnation is real. I believe
but
that.
but how do you know that part is correct? Are you sure that wasn't
Exactly.
the lie that they did?
Exactly. That's why you have to use discernment. You have to meditate on these things. You don't want to trust anyone else. All the fake ministers know that Malachi 3:8 is telling them to return the money. These fake ministers are actually Satan worshipers lying on purpose, trying to
And you
kill
say
God's
that
real people.
you say that with no evidence whatsoever except your feeling.
No, so everything you say is just your feeling. I can say that to you too. You cannot prove anything to anyone. The truth is either rejected or accepted by each individual. I can say the same thing about you.
Why?
Hey, Elijah. This is John. First of all, how's your week been?
It's been okay, not too bad.
Cool.
Feeling pretty good.
Yeah, and I guess sort of my question is, if you can't convince anybody of anything, then,
Exactly. If I can hold a piece of grass in front of your face and tell you it's green, but if you sit there and lie and to my face and tell me it's not green, that's someone rejecting truth. Everybody knows that January 6th, where Trump tried to incite an insurrection, happened, but you have Trump supporters going around saying it never happened. They're denying the truth. You
sure, so I
cannot.
guess my question is, what's the process, other than your feelings, what is your process for determining an objective fact as true?
You have to sit on it. You have to think about it. You have to meditate on it. Now, you can show people a piece of grass is green, but a person can still say, no, it's not. They're rejecting the truth. All right.
Right. But I guess my question is, because you're saying you're sitting on it. It seems like you're saying if it feels true to you, it must be
No,
true.
absolutely not. Okay. True people of God have supposed to have God's spirit in them, and it leads them to truth. All right. It doesn't come to people all of a sudden. Now God sent Jesus to tell people the truth. Like in Matthew 19:12, Jesus says God prefers same-sex marriage and confirms transgender people are born that way. Again, everybody has to have some kind of discernment to tell what's true and what's not. And you can develop better discernment over time as you learn more and more. But it's up to each individual.
So, like, for example, my discernment is that because there's no archaeological evidence supporting the claim that a Christ character was ever a real person, my discernment says that means there's no reason to conclude that Jesus was ever a real person.
Well, I'm not here to try to convince anyone that God is real. All right. I actually like atheists a lot more than I like most people that call themselves Christian, because true atheists and true Christians, their values line up: pro-choice, pro-LGBT, pro-equality. It's your body, it's your choice. Those are all values that most atheists have, and those are all values that true people of God have. All right. There's a lot of people out there that full well know they are lying, and they are lying on purpose. All right. Just to get
Tanya,
people
again, those are kind of things that you're saying where we have no evidence. So this Miranda puts up this comment about grass is green. So you just say, if you just like wave the grass, then, and if the other person doesn't believe it, then they're wrong. Because we know that grass is green, we have evidence that grass is green. We can measure the actual frequency of light that bounces off the grass.
That's
So
true.
we have
That
all
is
that
true.
evidence.
That is true, and I understand that. I'm not trying to prove to you that God is real. I'm not trying to do that. I can tell you what the Bible says. I can tell you that all these fake ministers are lying to you, but I'm not trying to prove to anyone God is real. That's not my job, all right? I don't feel like...
You're missing the point. You're missing the point I'm making. My point is that for us to know that something is true, we have certain criteria that tries to be something outside of we feel like it and we meditate on it. It needs to be something outside of us so that there can be an agreement of what is the truth. But you are
that's what
saying
God
things.
doesn't like. God doesn't want to have to prove to
No.
you. You know what I mean?
You are starting with, you're just like saying, well, God is, showing you the truth. So what you meditate on and conclude on must be true because, your God is giving it to you. But the question is, how do you know your God is giving you that truth? When you specifically said there are lies and truths within the Bible, and you're just...
Do you want to see the videos from the cameras at the homeless shelter where stuff was caught on camera and no one could deny that God didn't do these things? I would have to show you a video of a miracle happening for you to believe, and that's what God doesn't want. And I'm not trying to convince anyone God is real, but I can tell you what the Bible says.
Here's my question for you, Elijah. Other than the meditation and the feelings that you have, how do you objectively know that Satan didn't deceive you into believing what you believe today?
That's up for you to determine. That's why you have free will.
How did you determine that?
I know this, okay? When I was in Tennessee, God led me and started showing me the truth in the Bible. Malachi 2 says, you priest. Malachi 3:8 says, bring all the tithes and offerings into the storehouse. Malachi 2 proves Malachi 3:8 is talking to the thieving ministers and telling them to return the money. So I sent that message all over the world, all right? And then a month...
Satan that was guiding you to those passages.
Yeah, God led me to do these things. It's the way the Holy Spirit works. I can't prove to you anything about God is real. Nobody can prove God is real or God isn't.
But my point is that you're kind of caught in your own feedback loop when you're saying that you've meditated on this, but if you presuppose the existence of God and Satan, you can't remove Satan as the possible first domino leading you towards the path that you're on right now.
Absolutely. You have many people being deceived, and I agree with you. I can't prove that.
How do you know for a fact with 100% certainty, how do you know that you're not one of those deceived people?
I just know I'm not, because I know I'm Elijah reincarnated. All the fake ministers know I'm Elijah. All of your world governments know I'm Elijah.
Your argument is basically trust me, bro.
My argument is you have to decide what's true and what's not true for yourself.
But then that rules out the possibility of objective truth.
There's no way to prove God isn't real. There's no way to prove God is real unless you see a miracle done in front of your face and you finally get convicted. I feel like it's God's job to convict you that God is real. I can tell you what the truth of the Bible is. I can tell you what a truth is, what a lie is. Okay, you can't prove that male or female is determined by gender located in the soul and not sex characteristics, but you can sure look at a femboy and be like, that guy had to be born feminine. All right, transgender people are born that way. So you can't prove that to anybody.
Hold on, we're kind of getting off of the topic of how first of all, let me just ask you point blank: do objective facts exist? Does objective reality exist?
Only if the other person accepts it or rejects it. Like I said,
No. So what is the difference between an objective fact and a subjective fact? What is the difference between those two things?
It's up to the person that either receives the truth or doesn't. The truth is either rejected or accepted by each individual. You can play the insurrection over and over, but you have 100 million Trump supporters still saying it never existed. So does that mean
what you just described was a subjective interpretation? But that doesn't answer the question of whether or not you believe objective facts exist. So you use the example of
sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. You can't prove a transgender person is born that way, but anyone with common sense knows that transgender people are born that way. You can't prove that.
Let's go back to the
But you can prove it.
green blade of grass. So it seems like your position is that it is an objective fact that the blade of grass is green.
Not always. It could be yellow. It could have dried out. But if you hold it in front of someone's face, that's objective. You know it's green. Everybody can tell it's green. But then you can have people say it's not colorblind. Exactly. Someone could be colorblind.
But then my point is, if those are objective facts, then there must be a way for us to determine if a fact is objectively true.
There should be. Okay, you can take evolution and you don't see a monkey. You don't see any skulls between a monkey or a gorilla and a human being. All right. If evolution was true, you would have all these kind of skulls that slowly transition from one to the other. All right. So
right. So
they're not. You do not see.
Now we're getting into the process of determining if
exactly. So, and then what someone says as an objective fact to another person, it's not. I see a gorilla skull. I see a human skull. I don't see anything in between. All right. Now, history books will lie to you and tell you different and show you all kinds of things. But the government education system is part of the lies.
Tanya, sorry, but humans didn't evolve from gorillas and gorillas didn't evolve from humans. We're cousins, we didn't evolve. Neither of us evolved from each other. So,
well, then how are you cousins? How are you cousins? That doesn't make sense. You're not. If you're saying that we're cousins, then you evolved. One evolved from the other. All right.
Our cousins. Your ancestor.
Is your cousin your child or your parent? That's what you're trying to claim. That
they are supposed to evolve from your cousin. So they're both supposed to evolve from the same thing, but there's no common denominator between a gorilla and a human. There's just not.
Yeah, there is.
Sure, there are.
No, there's not.
Well, okay, hold on. So, how did you objectively reach that conclusion?
Because I don't see anything that shows me the transition from wherever you got from whatever to a gorilla to a human and back to it. I just don't. But I thought that I was coming on here to tell you guys what the Bible really says, and you guys are trying to put it out there claiming you're atheist, but then you're trying to tell people who is a Christian and who's not. Trump supporters are not Christians. And by you claiming that Trump supporters are Christians, then you're telling people you know who God is and who doesn't, and that you actually believe in God, but you're saying you don't. Do you see what I'm saying?
So hold on.
I can tell you my own.
If you're claiming you know who's a Christian and who's not, then you actually believe in God.
Tanya, the subject of discussion here is how do we tell what is true? How do we tell that what you think is information?
You have to be convicted.
Hold on, Tanya, can you just let me finish? So, you say you have some information and you got it through some meditation or whatnot. So how do we?
Not through just meditation, through the Holy Spirit, through research, through talking with true people of God, through a lot of things.
Okay, so Tanya. So my point is that from our point of view, you're making this claim and
But you claim that Trump supporters are Christians.
Hold on.
You guys said Trump supporters are Christians.
Elijah,
Tanya, let me just finish. Okay, let me just finish the point. So the question is, how do we tell the difference between what you claim and what another person claims?
That's up for you to decide. That is your choice. That's why you have free will.
And you have no basis for telling what is true. You have no basis for saying.
And neither do you.
Trump supporters. That's right.
And neither do you. You have no basis for saying that Trump supporters are Christians when they full well know they are evil and lying. And there are a lot of Trump supporters that are fully duped.
You're making more of a statement than I am. I'm just saying that based on what they claim and the fact that they belong to the Christian religion, that
they don't know. They are liars. The fake ministers are liars. So you guys claim that Trump supporters are Christians, and that's a lie. You don't.
No, you're saying they're liars without any evidence. That's the point. Without anything.
No, you're saying that they're Trump supporters or that Trump supporters are Christians without any evidence. You're saying Trump supporters. You said Trump supporters are Christians without any evidence.
Would you like me to tell you their evidence? Do you want to hear the evidence that confirms that they are Christian? Because
yeah, let's hear what your evidence is that they're Christian when you don't even believe in God. Your entire argument doesn't even make sense. You don't believe in God, but you know who's Christian and who's not. That doesn't even make sense.
If somebody says to me that they are Christian, whether or not I believe in their God, whether or not I believe in their Christ, if they tell me
if you don't believe in God, if you don't believe in God, you have no idea who is Christian and who is not. It's that simple.
Again, am I allowed to finish my point?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Now, I have a member of my family who is a diehard Trump supporter. Goes to Catholic Mass every single day. Now, they tell me that they're Catholic. They tell me that they are Christian. Now, do you have an objective fact that proves that they are lying?
Objective fact that proves they aren't lying.
No, that's a burden shifting fallacy. You're
not listening. You're trying to twist everything I say so that it falls into your truth. Yes, you're trying to say that Trump supporters are Christian and you don't even believe in God. It makes no sense whatsoever. They are not Christian. They are liars. All the fake ministers know the Bible is telling them to return the money.
Okay,
those are not Christians.
How do you determine when somebody is lying?
I determined that when you said Trump supporters are Christian, that you are lying. That is a lie. All right. It might not be to you. How do you know it isn't?
Know that it's a lie.
How do you know that it isn't and that you didn't lie?
That's a burden. You are making the positive claim.
I'm asking you, how do you know? How do you know it isn't a lie?
Because again, how do I know that you're not lying to us right now? Prove that you're not lying to us right now.
Prove that you're not lying right now.
No. See, right there.
Hey, John.
No, you're asking me to do something that you can't do yourself.
Okay. So at this point, I think it's gotten pretty useless to have this discussion. So Elijah, thanks for coming on. I really do appreciate you coming on. But the way you're holding this conversation, it makes it very difficult for us to actually have a productive discussion. So I am going to kick you down. We have another person waiting. I see that you keep on talking even though you are muted. But I will take you out, and then I'm going to bring in Brad, who was a guest in a couple previous weeks. So again, thanks, Elijah. And Elijah's gone. All right, Brad, welcome back.
Hey, Brad.
Hey, how's it going?
G'day, Brad. Having a good one?
How you guys doing?
Well, that was fun.
Good.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, so Brad, if I thought we could have a productive discussion with Elijah, I would have brought you on, but it was impossible. So I knew I wasn't going to go anywhere to, have you come on at the same time. And I think the stage would have been kind of crowded. But when we last talked last week, I think we had we had sort of finished the death penalty discussion, but Ook did have kind of a comment, and I don't think you were here at the beginning to hear it, but he did try to make some comments under the video, but wasn't able to for various reasons. So Ook, do you want to go over what you said before to Brad?
Yeah, with the mandatory sentencing and that we were talking about, just as I mentioned in the comments, I might be biased because of how and why Australia was colonised. But some of the stuff that could get you either the gallows or sent to Australia, I'll just run through some of them. Theft above 1 shilling. Let's see, stealing firewood, letters, post, assault with intent to rob, stealing a fish from a pond or river, stealing roots, trees, plants, or destroying them. Let's see, counterfeiting a copper coin, stealing a shroud from a grave, impersonating an Egyptian, or anyone that the government label as rule breakers or having a rebellious spirit. In other words, basically most of the Irish and half of the English. So it just doesn't, mandatory sentencing doesn't work. If you impose mandatory death sentences on crimes, it can make the crime or make the criminal think, well, bugger it, I'm just going to rob this house. Oh, someone's in the house. I don't want to go to jail. May as well kill them, because if I'm going to, if I'm going to spend 30 years for home invasion, I may as well make sure there's no witnesses around. So it's, yeah, history is full of governments that have tried to impose mandatory sentencing, and it's failed every time. It ends up with, well, the only decent thing it ever ended up with, mandatory sentencing, is Australia. Also, did you have a think about Blug's point about the black box idea? And Blug, if you want to reiterate that one again, that'd be good.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. Can he say it again?
You there, Blug?
Sorry. Yeah, I was trying to do a dozen things. There is a there is a proper name for that. It's called the original something. It's a philosophical position. Basically, the idea being that a humanist approach to setting up a fair society involves you setting up a set of rules in that society in which you are unaware of what role you will play when you then join that society. So if, for example, you set up an apartheid style system, you could be the person joining as the black person within that society. So obviously that would be a terrible result for you to be that person. So it's in your best interest to not have those style of rules in existence. You want fairness across the board for everybody, so that you don't end up on the wrong side of one of these rules that you've set up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's called, I think you're talking about the original position, right?
That's the word, yep.
John Rawls.
It also has the name of the person attached to it as well.
John Rawls, right?
Yeah, that's him.
Yep.
Bingo.
Okay. So to go back to Orc, I don't know if I'm saying it right. Orc?
Ook.
Ook.
Is
Ook,
oh
yeah.
Ook. Okay.
Go away, mate. Yeah, off you go, mate.
Although I like
Is yeah, okay. Is your position that if you're too tough on crime, then it will cause criminals to kill witnesses?
If you impose mandatory death sentences on certain crimes, yes. It's, yeah. One of the things,
well, so here's
using
this idea,
Australian,
right?
using Australia again as an example, some states, mainly the Northern Territory, imposed mandatory detention for Aboriginals. Now, with the in Aboriginal culture, being locked in jail is basically torture, and so many of the Aboriginals who were put in, this is recently, like in the last 30 years, would be put into custodial sentencing or care, and deaths in custody, either they'd be classed mainly as mysterious, unexplained deaths in custody. It's lots of suicide. Mandatory sentencing and just doesn't work. It's like, I think in America you had that 3-strike rule, which I think is silly, because if I sell
it's also possible, Luke, with that 3-strike rule, to get all 3 strikes in a single event. So
that's crazy.
You can rob a store for a packet of chips, and I think if you take a gun with you, rob the store for the packet of chips, and maybe someone gets injured on the way out, or you speed off or something, you've committed 3 felonies simultaneously, bam, in jail for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I just think laws have to be subjective to each case. I don't have a fix to make it more streamlined. I don't have any idea of how to fix the growing crime rate in America, and unfortunately it's starting to happen in Australia. The UK, the same thing. They don't have a problem with guns, much like we don't, but knife blade violence is huge in America, and I'm sure Sunday will tell me if I'm incorrect on that. The criminal justice system has to deal on a case by case. You can't just go carte blanche and go, right, we're just if you do this crime, you get 20 years. If you do this crime, you get 30. And if you do that,
so are you guys familiar? Are you guys familiar with the way prison is in Scandinavia?
I have.
I've heard of it.
I've looked at it and seen a couple of documentaries. Yeah, I think it's a good idea, but I'd like to know I'd have to study it a little bit more. I don't know how their justice system works. I just know how their prison system works. And
so
it seems to work for them, but I don't know whether it would work for other people.
So I can give you like a quick description. So from what I've seen online, I really like the way Scandinavia does their prisons, but me believing in capital punishment, I think they could use that for certain crimes. But okay, that's a side thing. But I just want to describe their prisons. So their prisons do real rehabilitation, because I watched a documentary where the guy goes to prison for, let's say, 5 years, but during that 5 years, he's safe. They don't have these gangs like beating each other, raping each other, stabbing each other. So he's safe. He's eating real food, and he's learning life skills, and he's getting a degree. Like, he's learning how to cook. He's doing an internship for a company. He's getting a college degree. He even gets to leave to go to work. So my point is, by the time the 5 years is up, this guy has actually been healed, rehabilitated. He has life skills. He has a degree. He can actually go back in society and be a good member of society. I like that. That's way better than U.S. prison. I don't know what the fuck's the point of U.S. prison. Like, I don't know what the fuck it's supposed to do.
Like another thing that I know from the Nordic countries. Say if you're a speeding ticket, say if one person who is, say, earning $20,000 a year, and another guy who's earning $500,000 a year get pulled over, they're both doing 60 kilometers over the speed limit. The fine that they give the person who's earning 20 grand a year is proportional to what they earn. whereas like they may only have to pay $100, but the person who's earning $500,000 a year, they're going to hitting $5,000 for the fine. I think that's really, really fair.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I can see the logic there.
But
and one thing about oh, good.
No, off you go, mate.
I was gonna say one thing about the prisons too is something I learned in America that I think is unfair. Is let's say you commit a crime and you get sentenced to life in prison, you cannot even choose the death penalty. As far as I'm aware, you're not even allowed to. Because I asked this question before in a hypothetical. I said, okay, let's say I get sentenced life in prison. Can I tell the judge that I'd rather just have the death penalty? And I was told no. And again, U.S. prison and Scandinavian prison, completely opposite. And I'm just speaking for myself personally. If I was ever in that situation where I was facing life in U.S. prison the way it is right now, I would prefer the death penalty. But I'm not even allowed to choose that.
I mean, if I was, if I was guilty, sent for 30 years in a US prison, I'd agree with you. I would like the idea that I have a right to choose my death. As long as you're the psychologist and you get vetted, so you're not actually just insane. But
you're not doing it just because you're not doing it just because you're temporarily sort of mentally incapacitated due to depression, because that would be a likely expectation for someone who is looking at facing 30 years or the rest of their life in prison. It'd be reasonable for you to be depressed under that circumstance. So yeah, but I'm 100% behind you on the idea that people should be allowed to choose. People have the right to their life, and they should have the right to their death as well. I think that's a right which is denied people that shouldn't be, and it's an entirely religious-based right.
There are plenty of
based almost entirely on religion.
There are plenty of people that are locked up that do choose when they exit. Now, whether or not they're depressed, whether or not, the closest I would come to being in favor of the death penalty, Brad. I mean, your choice option. I see what you're trying to do with it, and I recognize that you're coming at it from a place of compassion. And I guess my question is, how do we make sure that the people who choose that option aren't choosing it out of desperation and depression?
Well, it goes back to last week when we talked about prison reform, because if somebody's being sentenced to life in prison the way it is currently in the United States, they would be choosing the death penalty out of desperation and depression. And that makes perfect sense. Like, it's like they don't want to spend life in a living hell.
Yeah, it's a justified desperation, right? If you know that you essentially don't have a life, right? Why continue suffering? But going back to the Scandinavian portion, so I think what you said is right, and my understanding is the recidivism rate is very low because they are, sending people back into society, and they're placed in a much better situation than they are here. In terms of life sentence, they don't really have a real life sentence in the sense that, of like life without any chance of parole, at least for the most part. I'm sure there are exceptions, but for the most part, a life sentence it comes with a chance of parole at 10, 12, or 15 years, so that these people, when they have that sentence, they do have a life, potentially a hope for life after that time. At that time, if they're obviously still dangerous or whatever, they won't get parole. But the whole goal of that system is to reform the people.
You're talking in the U.S.?
No, in Scandinavia. In the U.S., it's not, right?
Okay.
Yeah, in the U.S. is completely, retribution, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
in Scandinavia, that makes more sense because if the person did 15 years in Scandinavian prison and then they come back to society, like I said, they're coming back without being raped, without being stabbed. They don't have PTSD. They have life skills. They have a degree now. So they can come back and actually live a life. I think it's ridiculous in the US that we send people to prison for 5 years, 10 years, and then they come out with, they're broke. They have all this trauma. They don't have life skills. They don't have degree, and they're supposed to just supposedly start a life from there. That's ridiculous. And they have a
They go
criminal
back.
record.
They go
They
back
have the
into
criminal
prison.
record.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
You can't-
ridiculous.
you can't get
Some
a
years
job,
ago,
which is ridiculous. Yeah, once you're
Some
out, in America, once you're out of jail, you can't get a job. You can't, I think, vote as well on certain crimes. Like if you've done a certain crime, you have the right to vote removed. Yeah, I think I think justice reform in America is needed, but I don't have an answer for it.
Yeah, and we don't need private prisons. That's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, I'm with you
On that note,
one.
on that,
Yeah.
Brad, you and I absolutely agree.
Yeah, Australia's
Yeah,
moved
and
to
it's
back to
crazy. It's crazy because my whole thing is, see, I know we've established we have a different opinion on the death penalty, but I'm just laying out my logic, right? I put crimes in two categories. Either one category is you did something so horrendous that you forfeit your life, or the second category is you did something bad, but it's not so bad. So, okay, let's give you a temporary punishment. Let's give you some rehabilitation, and then let's let you live your life with a clean slate. But I hate that America is not like that because you have people that did one crime when they were 20 years old and they're still paying for it at age 40 because it's still on their record. That's not fair. How is that fair?
Oh no, we see our model here in the States is not based on reform, and it's not based on justice in any kind of long-term sense. We want to make sure that the normies feel safe and protected from the animals. So we lock the animals away. We put them in warehouses for however long a period of time. Then we release them back out, but we do nothing to make sure that they land on their feet. So we then get to say, oh, they're still terrible, they're still horrible. And the people that commit crimes again, because they have few other options, you just perpetuate that mentality over and over again. So again, Brad, where you and I agree is that there are systemic problems with how the prison system evolved and how it currently exists and is being used. If you can look past some of her politics, I really would recommend that you read Angela Davis's book, The Abolition of Prisons.
Okay.
And listen to some of the things that she talks about when it comes to the history of prisons, the history of policing, the history of the lack of rehabilitation in this country, and how it has far-reaching echoes. Because when you look at how we don't spend money on schools, but we do spend money on prisons. So we create a pipeline,
right,
for people to get caught.
So we're creating the problem on the front end.
Yeah. No, absolutely we are. Now, look, there are some people that just want to watch the world burn, to quote Michael Caine. But there are ways of handling folks like that. There are ways of handling petty theft. There are ways of handling a wide range of crimes that can actually yield a net positive over time, rather than just saying, oh, you shoplifted, into the clink with you for 30, 60, whatever number of days, or when you or longer. So it makes no sense.
So that's the woman you told me about last time, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have her in my notes. So Yeah, I'd be happy to read her books because you know, I can read something and only agree with like 5% of it, 10% of it, but still get value.
Sure.
But I think I'll agree with most of what this woman says. If it's about prison, if it's
Yeah.
about what we've been talking about, it sounds like we're all on the same page. So
as I said, right now, some of the things you're not going to agree with everything she says. You're not. I can tell you right now. But at the same time, if you look at the connecting truth, the connecting facts of what it is that we're talking about, how everybody can look at how we got to where we are with the prison industrial complex as it exists today, and you see some of the racist history behind it, some of the classist history behind it, and how it's never really done what it intended to do, which is create a society that is actually, substantively better on the opposite end. So, I mean, one of the things that you said was last week when you and I were going back and forth is,
yeah, we made good TV, good TV, brother.
During the TV portion of the live stream, if it's not 100%, then I think it should be abolished. Well, I don't know if I would completely abolish prisons, but it doesn't work. It doesn't. It's too expensive. It doesn't do what it claims to do, and there's few net positives that come out the opposite side of it. And so the weekend economist in me doesn't see the value of it. The humanist in me doesn't see the value in it. So I don't know if I would go so far as to say abolish prisons, but to directly answer your question, there's a lot about the prison system that isn't 100% that I agree should be gotten rid of.
Yeah.
So to be intellectually honest and consistent with what you were coming at me with last week, that's actually my answer.
Say it one
by
more
the
time.
way,
Say the last part one more time.
No, to be intellectually honest and consistent, that's my answer to you. There is a lot about our punishment system that I think should be gotten rid of because it's too expensive and it doesn't do what it claims to want to do.
Yeah, all it is torture. Yeah, it's not good for anybody. It doesn't rehabilitate the criminal. And I don't know why so many of these so many Americans don't think about this, but the person you lock in a cage for 5 years is going to come back to society. They're going to be your neighbor. So
yeah,
it's more in your best interest to like actually rehabilitate them than to do what we currently do.
So just from a voting point of view, John Clark had said that if it's a felon, you can't vote for a president. I don't think that's right. There are some states where you don't lose any right to vote, even while incarcerated. And others, you get your voting rights back when you're released. And others, are more complicated. I do remember seeing something about Florida where I think they recently passed like some mandate that allowed the felons to get their voting right back. But I heard there's some still issues with that. But yeah, it varies quite a bit.
The issue there is essentially you get your voting rights back once you've paid all your debts, your as financial debts. So you have to pay for the court case and you have to pay any restitution. Once you've completely paid out all of your debts to society, you then get your voting rights back. But of course, because DeSantis is such an asshat, they've decided to circumvent that law by just not telling anyone how much money they have left owing. So that way they can never get out of the debt. So short of going and just paying, I don't know whether I owe 1,000 or 2,000, so I'll pay $1 million just to be sure. But yeah, they never clear the debt because you can't find out how much your debt is, and you go, yeah, he's an evil authoritarian, probably worse than Trump in some ways because he's not as stupid.
Yeah, he knows how to play the game a little better.
Yeah, and also I think those systems, they're just like they tack on fees after fees, and bunch of other kind of charges, where you essentially kind of get into that debt, and it just kind of piles up.
Yeah, it turns into another person. Now, to respond real quick to QC, I will look more into that. I was under the impression that felonies or convictions against the U.S. government meant that right was stripped. But if that turns out, if I'm dumb and wrong on that, then that would make me very happy, because there are people that I know that would benefit from that piece of information. So if you want to email me anything that you know about that, I'll go down my own rabbit hole in my own time.
Let me just put it
I'll
in
share
the
it. I'll share with
comments.
you guys actually. I'll share with you guys actually. Like something personal that relates to all this. When I was a teenager in middle school, I got in a fight, and I had to spend 2 hours in a juvenile hall holding cell. And that's my only experience. Like, I've never been arrested, never been to jail, but I spent 2 hours in that holding cell until I got picked up. And I remember thinking to myself, man, this fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Like 2 hours was all I needed. It's like you're locked in a cage. There's nothing to do but just stare at a wall. And they brought the lunch, and the lunch sucked. The lunch was garbage. And I was like, this is hell. You know what I mean? Like, and that's like, juvenile hall is nothing compared to jail or prison. But even that was like horrible,
The few times I've been locked up, never convicted of anything, by the way, but the few times that I've been locked up,
You had a good liar, right?
No. That is
Or
factual.
you had a good alibi.
Yeah.
The only guilty man in Shawshank.
Yeah, I didn't mean it was an accident. That person went through the plate glass window.
Yes.
Whoops.
Route.
Yeah. Sorry. Never charged. I've always been under suspicion and brought in and locked up, but or convicted. And when I was in lockup, a little bit different in Australia. Hey guys, what about some food? Yeah, we're doing a run to the burger bar. Yep, okay, take $5 out of my wallet and get us a burger, will you? Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it's a little bit different over here. It's changed as the years have gotten on, but it's still, I don't think I've ever seen anyone, and I've seen a lot of people put in handcuffs. I don't think I've ever seen anyone who didn't act up. Your cuffs are in the front, or they don't bother about putting the cuffs on you at all. They just put you in the back of the car and off you go. Yeah, I don't know what America can do, or Australia for that matter, because our prisons are getting privatised. How to change, to make meaningful changes. I think it's going to be a baby step by baby step by baby step to make prison reform.
And I'll say this too, because I think this is an important point to make for nuance. Is even though I believe in capital punishment, I also believe that the state should make sure every citizen has their basic necessities met, because I don't think it's fair for the state to allow someone to be put in a position where they're starving and homeless and they're in survival mode, and then they commit a crime, and then they, give them the harshest punishment for that crime. I don't necessarily think that's fair, or I don't think that's fair.
I'm
So,
with you
Brad,
100% on that one too.
Yeah. So let me just kind of wrap up here. Tilting Windmill mentioned that DeSantis also locks up people for voting. So yeah, that happens in Florida, where someone who thought that they got their voting rights restored votes and then gets arrested and charged for improper voting. So he really doesn't want any former prisoners to vote. So Brad, I mean, this whole thing started where we brought you in because of a comment you made about how it's immoral, right? You actually said immoral for people to oppose the death penalty. And we talked about a lot of different ways that the system is broken, not just the prison system, but the whole death penalty system and the death row and all that. So can you see that there are legitimate reasons for someone to oppose the death penalty without being considered immoral?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say the person is immoral. I would say the position is immoral. But yeah, I can see criticisms of capital punishment. But if we fix those criticisms, then, in my opinion, I think would be a good route.
So I'm not sure what the difference is when you say the position is immoral, but not the person taking the position. But, you know, but since none of this is fixed as of now, you know, I don't think it would be immoral for someone to oppose the death penalty as it is now. Right?
I would say, yeah, I would say it's still case by case, because like the example I give, a hypothetical example, is somebody wakes up one day and just says, "Oh, I'm gonna go murder this person," and there's like no reason, they just do it. Then I think capital punishment would be appropriate.
So I don't think, you know,
there would be a reason scenario and think that that person had such mental health rot that you're not dealing with a person that was of sound mind. Now,
yeah, we'd probably fundamentally, I don't know. You could just use that to, I mean, do you see how people can just use that though to get out of anything if you just say mental health?
Okay, so
Brad,
it's a tough bar to clear.
Yeah, so it's I get what you're saying, but I can't just say that I'm a purple space penguin, I don't deserve to go to jail. There is a process that, you know, people have to go through to show that they are not of sound mind. And insanity pleas very rarely work in the United States. Now, I don't know if that speaks positively or negatively about the process, but if somebody just wakes up and says, "I feel like killing today," that's such an extreme example that my response to that would be, that does seem like somebody who would probably meet that burden of proof as being so mentally detached from reality that they're not of sound mind and can't be held culpable for their actions. But that's not for that person to just say. It's not for a judge to just say. They have to still prove that.
Yeah. So Brad, the example that you give and you say, well, this person did this. So you're presupposing that we know exactly, you know, what happened and what the mental state of that person is. And if that was the case where we exactly knew that, then, you know, I think there's a case to be say, well, you know, certain kind of crimes do deserve the death penalty. But the systematic problem is that people who are arrested and charged for this, you know, they may get convicted wrongly or may, you know, end up getting a death sentence when someone else who could have done the exact same thing and got a better lawyer gets off. So there's no justice in the way that the death sentence is meted out. So that's really the issue with people who oppose the death penalty, because it's not equal justice.
I understand. I think that's a point separate from the death penalty, though, because I think the point you're making is people getting a lighter sentence just because they can afford a better lawyer.
No, that's just an example. But Ook, you have one last thing before we close up.
Yeah, I mean, I did in Australia a notorious criminal. Look up Chopper Read, R-E-A-D. he's got a movie out, and there's several documentaries. If you search his name on YouTube, you'll get to know what this person is. Basically, I think he should have never been let out of prison. And if there's one guy in Australia that I think maybe would have benefited from execution, it might be Chopper. It's, yeah, I'm a little bit iffy on that, but yeah, have a look at Chopper Read, and it's a bloody good movie, but also you'll see the real interviews that people have done with him. And he's just a guy who basically loved violence. You know, murder, assault, murder again, and he's even admitted to killing someone after he got out the last time. And he admitted that on Australian 60 Minutes, I think. But he won't.
Well, we had in one of the Scandinavian countries, this guy did a mass shooting, and he killed tons of people. And I'm not sure what his motive was, but there was no. He had a motive, or he had a reason. He killed innocent people. He did a mass shooting, and they put him in the Scandinavian prison. And he was like chilling in his room, and he was playing PlayStation. And then he went on a hunger strike because he demanded a better PlayStation and better video games. And the prison guards were like, "Oh, we don't want him to do a hunger strike. Let's get him his." And that's empathy and compassion just gone way too far, So
sure,
even though I
both ends.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, even though I think Scandinavian prison system is way better overall, I think they're definitely way too soft on situations like that.
Oh, hey, Brad.
It was a far right extremist.
Hey, Brad. Reach out to QC, and he'll give you my email address. Let's email back and forth.
Okay.
All right.
You're a very thoughtful person. You're actually great to interact with.
Yeah.
So, Brad,
we were going to get into lashing, but time is out.
Yeah. So,
so
Brad, I put my email address in the comments, so you can send me your emails to me, and then I'll forward it on to John, and then John can respond back to you from that.
I have my reasons for being very selective about the way that my personal information gets out there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, for this will basically be the last week where we talk about the death penalty. If you do come back, Brad, we'll have to find a different topic, and maybe it can be more oriented to your theism and why you believe in God. But thanks again for everyone for coming on. I'm going to remove you guys, but thank you, everyone. And for everyone in the private chat or the live chat, thanks very much for staying on. And we will end with our normal outro, and I will see you in the comments.